Hour of Jersey Today, we took an initial look at the Howard League for Penal Reform's report on safeguarding the welfare and well-being of children and young people in Jersey's penal system. The report is comprehensive, it's wide-ranging, and here at BBC Jersey we'll be returning to specifics over the coming days. But to discuss in general some of the report's main findings and recommendations, I'm joined now by Senator Perchard, Minister with special responsibility for child welfare. Very good morning to you. Firstly, Senator Perchard, your initial reaction to the report as a whole.
Morning, Roger. Yes, well, I received the report yesterday, and I have to say at first glance it looks to be an excellent report. It's well considered, very constructive, and will be invaluable in our ongoing work to improve our services for children. And I'm particularly pleased that the report praises much of the work that we are doing in Jersey, the parish hall inquiry, the youth system, the bridge, the youth services. So lots of good stuff. The recommendations they make now need to be considered carefully now and implemented where appropriate.
Well, let's discuss. The Howard League say that as a matter of urgency, Jersey should sign up to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Now, I know the recent child employment regulations have taken us a little way there, but will the states now be adopting the convention's provisions in full?
Yeah, absolutely. The states wish to sign up to the UN conventions on the rights of the child as soon as possible. To do this, we will need to make some minor legislative changes. Mainly can be done through regulation, I believe, but they revolve mainly around the hours or working children working and the hours that they're able to work. Your listeners may remember that 3 or 4 weeks ago we launched a consultative document asking people for input, and with the view to Jersey becoming signatory, so I'll be looking to go to the States early next year, and we intend to be signatories to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in full next year.
Because people will say, look how long it took the states to adopt, the Convention on Human Rights. I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yes, well, it was certainly much more extensive, and there was consequential legislation as a result of that. This is relatively minor compared to that piece of work.
So, early next year...
2009, remind me, Roger, if we haven't signed up.
I will. Don't you worry about that. Now, what's your reaction to the Howard League's wish to see, and this is a major point, custody virtually eliminated from the picture as far as young people are concerned? In other words, are we locking up too many youngsters? What do you think?
Well, the Howard League claim that we have a disproportionate amount of children in secure accommodation or on remand. And they historically are probably right. They do concede that the trend is in the right direction and that there are less and less children being held in secure accommodation.
But compared to other places, it's not a good figure, they say.
Yeah, but they do concede it's coming down, and we know it is coming down. They know it's coming down. So the trend is in the right direction. The best way, of course, for it to be reduced is to raise the age of criminal responsibility, as they suggest.
From 10 to 14.
From 10 to 14. That means that if you're under the age of 14, you can't be held criminally responsible for your actions.
Is that a recommendation, again, that you will take to the states and say we must do this?
No, this is going to need very careful consideration. This is a major step. The UK is 10. That means a 13-year-old will never be held criminally responsible for any action. Now, there are wider consequences than the child themselves. Society needs to consider this, members need to debate this, and professionals need input. It is a very liberal option, and it's one that will be promoted by some, including the Howard League. It needs to be considered very carefully.
Well, this is a really important point, is it? Because a lot of the specific recommendations of this report are underpinned, aren't they, by a definite culture or ethos, a way of looking at and dealing with these issues, moving from punishment to restorative justice, prevention, keeping youngsters out of the courts. Now, how ready are you, and indeed Jersey, to adopt this culture?
Well, it is... as you say, it's a culture. It's a liberal approach to the penal system with regards to young people. It's a very commendable approach that young people do not enter the criminal system, that they need support and care. Now, however, I do feel, and I suspect people in Jersey feel, that as a last resort, secure facilities as a form of punishment is sometimes necessary. There needs to be boundaries. Now,
are you saying the Howard League are too liberal?
I'm saying that this is a liberal agenda. It's on the other side. Perhaps Jersey's too conservative. There is a debate to be had. It would be foolish for anybody to say 14 is right today.
But do you agree that we're locking up too many youngsters?
We have done historically.
Are we today locking up too many youngsters?
In practice, I don't believe we are, because we have no right to sentence. So children are remanded. They're remanded not at the moment, in my opinion, as a punishment, but in an effort to put them in a secure environment where some intensive support can be given to them. Children are never remanded unless they have committed very serious crimes, and so.
But people will be disappointed to hear that I don't know about Senator Shenter, we haven't spoken to him yet, as the people who commissioned the report, I mean, how do you intend to progress with these findings and recommendations if you're saying one of those recommendations you're not sure about?
Well, they're conflicting recommendations. We've had the Andrew Williamson report, who has made recommendations that conflict with this. So every professional report will offer an opinion, and it's a case of now putting all these opinions in a pot and coming up with something that is acceptable not only to children and their representatives, but to society as a whole.
Now, you mentioned the Williamson report. The Howard League say that while the idea of the corporate parent, in common with the Williamson report, the Howard League is saying the corporate parent, which is what, the Ministers for Education, Home Affairs and Health, that's good because it allows, cross-agency thinking and working, but it doesn't really work, and that we need, in effect, a Minister for Children. Yep. Two reports, the same recommendation. Sure. How likely are we to see a new Ministry for Children?
Well, I'm delighted that the Howard League holds the view that there should be a political champion for children. It's not surprising, and as you say, it's one of the Williamson recommendations. The Council of Ministers at the time of Williamson recommended this, accepted this recommendation, and I'm delighted to say publicly that plans are well advanced to implement this. The plans will be unveiled to states members early in the new year and hopefully implemented soon after. But there will be a political champion for children.
But it won't necessarily be a Minister for Children.
Well, there's some structural problems with regards to the States of Jersey law.
It's not insurmountable, though, is it?
Well, there's some budgetary issues. And Minister for Children, does that overlap into education? Where does the boundary stop? But there will be a political, if the states approve, there'll be somebody that has political responsibility for children.
Okay. The Bridges funding, will that continue or be strengthened? That's one of the praises in the report.
I'm a big fan of the bridge. We understand, again, Williamson complimented the bridge on their excellent work. I'd like to unroll that principle elsewhere in Jersey. Supporting vulnerable families, early intervention, great idea.
Will the funding continue?
Yes, absolutely. It must, and it must be strengthened.
What about the parish hall inquiry system? Another plus, as far as the report's concerned. Will that be enhanced and strengthened?
Well, they are